What's up, people? CF Liu here. How to make good money from Bursa Malaysia or any stock market in the world. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner, by knowing this lesson, you'll be able to have crystal clear clarity of how to actually play, trade, invest for short or long term in the market. And on top of that, knowing this will help you hit the ground running and eventually make good passive investment income from Bursa Malaysia or any stock market, although you don't have a lot of money to invest now. Even if you have little money to invest now, it doesn't matter, because hey, all of us have to start from somewhere, right? And this is also so important, so you don't lose money by understanding the wrong thing of how Bursa Malaysia or any stock market works. So that being said, let's jump right into this lesson. So let's look at this very colorful ring over here, and I'm going to walk you through step by step. So stock market is like a casino. I'm just kidding. No, it is not like a casino. Of course it can be, but I do not recommend that you treat it as a casino. Now, stock market is a place whereby you imagine yourself are a business owner. And let's just make it simple. Let's just make it very Malaysian. You are actually selling Musang King. You name your company as Musang King Berhad because you have a a durian orchard, somewhere in the Ulu place and whatnot, and that is being passed by, or 1 hectare, 1 acre kind of orchard. So the thing is, that let's say you want to actually grow your business, grow to a point where you export to China, you export to Japan, and you export anywhere in the world where people don't mind eating the stinky durian. So what you do is that on the very first start, you probably borrow money from your friends and family to open up your business, to grow your business. However, as time goes by, you will actually borrow from the bank. But there's a limit of how much you can do that, right? So when you have exhausted, you get this saturate already, you cannot borrow more from banks and all that, you start to find other avenues to actually get more money to grow your business. And to do that, you actually ask for a stranger. But any Tom, Dick and Harry, any strangers is not going to give you money because they don't trust you. How do they know you're not going to take their money and run away? Even though, of course, you say that you actually borrow money and then in exchange for an ownership in your business, right? But this stranger doesn't trust you. So what to do next? Now this is where you actually go to a place called the stock market. This is what I mean by stock market, a primary market. Now what is a primary market? A primary market is what people say that a new company that want to go public listed, they want to raise capital, they go to the market where they will go naked. Not bodily naked, but they have to review, all their financial statement, asset, liabilities, everything, or the numbers, your profits and everything for the whole world to see. That is how even people who don't know you in person, they trust that you are really making profit, because no business actually want to invest. No people want to invest in your business if your business is not making money, so that money cannot be recouped back, right? So you want to go to a place, stock market, be naked, everything, and then people who even don't know you, they trust the system, they trust that your figures are genuine, is audited, so they have confidence to say that this is a good company. So without even knowing you, they are willing to actually take the money out of the pocket and invest in your business or your company stock. So this is what we call an initial public offering or IPO. Now for more details on how to make big money through IPO, you just click on this that pops up at the top. Okay, just look at that I cover a lot of how to make money even before IPO. But let's jump right into this. So stocks are basically people who give money in exchange for ownership in your Musang King Berhad business. Now the analogy is like you are buying a house directly from a property developer in a primary market. In a stock market, the primary market where to do IPO is that the money flow to you as the owner of Musang King Berhad, which you can use that money to grow a business in exchange for the ownership in Musang King Berhad. But technically in Bursa, you have this called main market, ace market, and also the lead market. Now if you want me to actually explore or tell you more what is different between the main market, the ace market, and the Bursa lead market, click on like or comment I want it CF. So I will actually make another lesson covering this very aspect. What is a main market, what's an ace market, what is a Bursa lead market. And we just zoom right back into here. So because of that, in a primary market where all your statement are audited and all that, that gives people, strangers, not limited to just your friends and family or your acquaintance. So a lot of people in anywhere around the world actually can go in and just invest into your company, Musang King Berhad, without even knowing you in person, because they trust that this company, if they think that it's worth their time and money, they will invest into it. What is what we call it a secondary market, right? A secondary market is actually a lot like buying a property from in the sub-sale market. Means that you buy a real estate property from someone that already own a property. Now that's recap to say that these are probably the people that actually got able to actually bought or hold an ownership in Musang King Berhad, your company, of a stock in the initially. There might be more demand to actually own the your company Musang King Berhad, but a lot of people who want that wouldn't get that. So just imagine, these are the 4 investors that is lucky enough or have that money enough to actually invest in your company. And after that, no longer, you don't need that much of money, right? You say that, okay, I already have enough money, that's it. Okay, these are the 4 people that actually own stake in your company. So what happened in the secondary market is that, let's say there are a lot more people after that, indicated by this blue and red. Okay, there are a lot of people that cannot buy during IPO, cannot buy your stocks during IPO, your company ownership. So what they do, they have to buy it from someone. So they have to buy it from someone on the very first level, people who already own this stocks ownership from you during the IPO. So this is where things get interesting, because when people sell their ownership to the next level, the next layer of people, big or small money would be made. Of course, this first people who get these stocks during the initial public offering, they would not sell it at a loss. Of course, loss in stock investing also happen. Probably the stock price drop and then they have to liquidate, use the money, so they have to sell at a loss. That also happened. And then this cycle actually goes on and on and on and on. So what happened is that people buy from each other, so they exchange hand, the ownership actually exchange hand, one and another, and the cycle just goes on and on and on. So whatever money that is really exchanged over here, it doesn't really go to Musang King Berhad, right? The company itself. It's just an exchange of money between one seller and the buyer, with another seller, with another buyer, and the cycle actually repeats and repeats. All right, as I can indicate over here. Now, going on to the next, like I say, this is what we call a secondary market. But what for those who actually still own, or actually holding on equity ownership of any stocks of a company, what are the benefits of holding the stock of the company? Now imagine Musang King Berhad, your company, right? Ultimately you use that money to grow your business, we generate more profit, big profit, and then as an investor of this company, this investor will hold and your stocks or ownership in your company will be enjoying the increased profit, probably increased dividend, and also what we call as an increased stock price, because it's always about 2 kind of return. One is the dividend return, which is tied to whether the company is making profit or not. If yes, likely there will be a higher so-called revenue profit sharing in the form of dividend. But more so, when people actually sell what they have, their equity ownership, their stocks ownership, it also make them money. But how do they make money on the second part of this equation is very debatable, what we call capital gain. The capital gain is the profit or loss from buying stock and then selling it in later days. Now to understand this capital gain and all that, you really have to understand the law of supply and demand, and of course this one. Now P equal to the price, Q is the quantity, red line supply, blue line demand. So in equilibrium, this is how is what we call is a balance. There is an equal number of supply and demand. So therefore the price is here. However, when there is a situation where the quantity or the supply, there's a surplus, meaning that the supply is more than the demand. So what happened is the price will actually drop. That's why this is what actually caused the price to go up or go down. When a lot of people are actually selling stocks, they are throwing that away. There are more seller than buyer. There's a surplus of the stock in the market. But if there is a shortage, and just look at this, a shortage, right? Whereby the demand is more than supply. So you have a shortage. That is where the price actually drops. So stocks work the same way. More people want to buy. More people want to buy because they think the business is good, the business is growing. Your Musang King business is growing, is more in demand, that actually drives the price up. So you are actually selling it to another willing buyer who think the price will still go up. And for you, you might think that the stock price might not go up anymore. That's why you are willing to sell it. So how does that turn out is that all this, whether you have you make a profit when it comes to capital gain and all that, you make a profit by
smashing the like button. I'm just kidding.
You make profit by buying low and selling high on top of the dividend itself. Now you say that CF, what kind of investment mantra in that? You might think that, wow, this is just kind of obvious, right? Just kind of obvious. So what really transpire over here is that this is what I call as a greater fool theory. Or greater fool theory is that if you do something dumb, you hope someone else is dumber. Or in investment standpoint, this is how I want to visualize it. The bigger fool theory, the greater fool theory. And this is what everyone will be hoping. You hope that another fool will buy at a price much higher than you bought it. That is how you make profit. There's a system to track who owns what company stock and who owns how much at any point of time. We call that a CDS, Central Depository System. So therefore, when you want to buy a willing buyer, a willing seller, you don't need to do this manually. You just have to, the market, once you are inside the CDS system, the market will actually auto match a willing buyer and a willing seller because they track everyone, how much they are willing to sell or how much they're going to buy, and what price they are holding, how much they have. So the market automatically find for this willing buyer and willing seller. Most people actually play in the secondary market because, let's just face it, initial public offering or company don't just get listed because getting listed is like a one-time event, like you're getting married or something, right? Of course, they can get delisted and listed again a few years, but that is not the norm. And no, there's not a lot of company that get listed every year. Maybe less than 10 in Malaysia, in Bursa Malaysia and all that. So that being said, I hope that this lesson has been useful. If you find this lesson has been useful, comment below with this icon, a like, or if you have any question, just type in your comments. Smash the notification bell if you want you to get notified when I publish lesson like this. Subscribe to the channel as well, so you also get notified when I publish lesson like this. Okay, that being said, I personally read each and every comment and I reply to each and every comment. So your comments are really valuable and I will really appreciate if you click on like and comments below and subscribe, right? So I add more value to you. That being said, this is CF Liu. I'll see you in another next lesson.